to another edition of Real Talk with Real People, a candid conversation with Dr. Caroline Bethea-Jones. I am your host, and today we will continue where we left off in our last two conversations on the power of words and transforming your mind. In January, my guest and I introduced the idea of the power of words. Last month, we discussed changing our minds to reach our intended goals. But this month, I want my audience to ponder the idea of universal laws and how they affect us. We learned that words could be pretty magical and, when used correctly, can and will conjure up spells. However, we know that not all spells are evil. It is how we think about words that matter most. Our thoughts create words, and our words create worlds. Our thoughts have an incredible ability to shape our lives. So what are the universal laws that shape our thoughts? How can we discover them? My guest and I will have a candid conversation today about some of the universal laws that govern our lives. We will discuss the law of harmony, the law of vibration, attraction, and the law of divine order, to name just a few. And if time allows us, we will discuss the law of belief, compensation, and the law of experience. There are also laws of personal return, laws of restriction, and the totality that I hope we get a chance to discuss. Now, I know there are so many universal laws and far too many to discuss tonight, but we're going to get started anyway. So my name is Dr. Caroline Bethea-Jones, and I want to welcome you to my show. My co-host today is Miss Anita Crum, and my guest host is Miss Teresa Henry, and our guests today are Mr. and Mrs. Nikaamen. Welcome, both of you, to the show.
Welcome.
Welcome. How's everyone doing tonight?
Welcome.
You're doing well.
Excellent.
Great. Really
Wonderful.
Glad to hear it. Glad to hear that. All right. So you know what? This is a really big topic, universal laws. I mean, we can talk all day, all night, all year, all century about universal laws. But I want us to be specific about some of them that I believe actually have a great effect on our lives. And for so many people who don't believe that, they say the same thing like, oh, well, I don't know if I believe in that stuff. Whether you believe in it or not, it governs your life. So we're just going to have at it and we're going to have a conversation. How about that?
How about that?
Fine.
All righty. Okay, let's get started then. I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Miss Anita Crum. What you got for us
right
today?
in. So welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with the Nikaamen family, the dynamic duo for this topic. I'm super excited. Caroline, I jotted down what you just mentioned about how universal laws have a great effect on our lives. And I subscribe to that belief wholeheartedly. I believe that we are one with nature and we're all connected. We're talking about universal laws of the universe. And yeah, there are laws out there, and we're going to uncover how they impact us in every area of our lives. So I'll just come up with I'll start first with my questions. All right, which I'll go to Basui first. Basui, if you would please just share with everyone your background so we can understand your depth of this topic here today.
Okay, yeah. I guess it started around, I would say about 2000, maybe 13, 14. I started going to a spiritual shrine. It's called the Shrine of Jehuti Heru Nepu. And it's a shrine that teaches the philosophies of ancient Kemet, the spiritual philosophies of ancient Kemet, under the instructions of our Jedna. Jedna is, what they call spiritual guide. Our Jedna Mfundishi Jahutimas. And, we pretty much learn the laws of the universe, learn how to live in tune to those laws, learn how to eat right, how to change our thoughts, think right. And a lot of it is really geared towards understanding who you are, teaching yourself about your life mission, how to live along your mission, and how to realign these spiritual laws towards your progression along your life mission. And so it's, it deals with a lot of things like manipulating certain modems to help you. And one main modem that was used, or that I use, or that we use in our shrine, is the name. In the language of Kemet, the word name, it's the hieroglyphics of the mouth with the wave of energy under it. And the mouth means utterance, the wave of energy means energy. And so it's called Ren. And so from there, we you deduce that your name means the utterance of your energy, letting you know that your name carries a lot of energy, whether you're speaking it or somebody else is speaking it to you. So one of the things that we definitely subscribe to is to have a name that matches your mission, or your mission along your journey. And so we do spiritual consultations and spiritual readings. I got a spiritual reading that helped me determine a name to match me along my spiritual mission in life. And so comes the name Basui Mshu Nikaamen. Basui meaning one who teaches and instructs. Mshu, M is a preposition for the word with, or from, or for. Shu is a deity in Kim. Well, we call him Necharu, but it's popularly known as deities. Shu would be the deity or the Necha of air that governs the air, boundless space, which is what air is made up of, right? And Nikaamen means belonging to the spirit of the unseen force of creation, which is Amen. He is the deity that represents the unseen force of creation. A lot of times you would hear the terms, if you ever study on ancient Egypt, Amen Ra, right? Amen was the unseen force, Ra was the seen force, and together they were the totality, that totalitarian creator. And so when you put it all together, it's one who teaches and instructs with boundless space or without boundaries, who belongs to the spirit of the unseen force of the creator. And so, before I actually started going to the school, it's funny, my whole life prior to that, all I was doing was working in a field where I was teaching or instructing or an assistant to a teacher. So, the cards were already there for me. So I really got confirmation once I started going to the school, especially when I had my spiritual reading. And anyone that will be watching this in the future, I'll advise you, go get a spiritual reading from someone, who is really who has mastery in doing spiritual readings. It's amazing. It's life-changing, because you're seeing your soul on paper, especially when they print out your natal chart. If you ever got your natal chart done, you're seeing all of your idiosyncrasies. You're seeing yourself on paper. Everything that you do, your hang-ups, your strengths, your weaknesses, everything that is embodied within you is on that paper, depending on the house that your planet is in, and so we go through all of that in a reading, and all of that leads to your mission in life. And so, like I said, you definitely want to get a name and a numerology that kind of fits all in with that aligns with that mission in your life. So I've been on that path, like I said, since 2013, 2014. Another thing we do in there is we try to gain mastery in the language of ancient Egypt, which is hieroglyphics, what we call Medu Necher, what they called Medu Necher. And one thing that has been very revolutionary in my mind is how so much of our, as Black folk, so much of our information, our history is whitewashed and has been bastardized into a form where we don't even recognize our own history anymore. And we see it a lot, especially when we study ancient Egypt, because remember, for years, they've been trying to say that Egypt wasn't even in Africa. You know,
Right.
any exam you go into in America, Egypt and Africa are never on the same floors, you know?
Right.
Egypt's like on the third floor, Africa's on the first. So they've always been trying to, you know, distinguish
them separate.
Right. And so now that we're getting into it a little bit more and learning about the Necharu, the Necher, and the spiritual philosophy of it, we're seeing how so much of it was changed and defaced and camouflaged into Greek names and Roman names. So definitely one of my missions along my life mission is to revisit and bring back the authenticity of our history. And you know, wherever that we are supposed to find it in, that we don't find it in anymore. And so that, you know, that's definitely been one of my missions. And, you know, and then sometime in the near future, I'd love to share with you some of the work that I'm doing, maybe on a future podcast. I would love to do that.
Excellent.
But now, so, you know, I find myself here. Flashback 5 years ago, I met my beautiful wife, Kiana.
Yay.
We've been on a spiritual journey together. I mean, we discuss, I mean, the majority of our discussions is on spirituality and spiritual laws and, you know, eating right. And now that we're raising a beautiful child, you know, and so that has been even magnified. That's been magnified even more, you know, on how to live back to nature, you know, back to the land.
Yeah, so, to the land.
I'm enjoying every bit of the journey, and I am very grateful that y'all have invited me here to speak about what I know, and you know.
Well, we love having you here, and just by giving that, I'm sure that's just scratching the surface of your depth of knowledge. We're just delighted to have you here today. So there were several things that you've mentioned that I just want to touch upon. Again, we're talking about the universal.
Before we do, I don't mean to interrupt you. Before we do, let's give Miss Nikaamen a chance to say a few words and introduce what she does, because you know they are one. We will admit they are one, but they also they are separate too. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Caroline. My husband tried to take all of my time as well. So, as he explained, he's a teacher, so you can see how he loves to lecture, and you can also see how he won me over because I am sapiosexual, so I love learning, I love words, and he has lots of them. So my name is Kiana Jones, Nikaamen. Dr. Caroline Jones is actually my mother. My mentor and phenomenal woman, someone I look up to immensely. So I'm very happy to be here again on the podcast. In my personal life, my journey of personal evolution started in about 2010. I started, I was just going through really dark times, and I felt like, look, I need to figure out the meaning of my life, or I just don't want to be here, you know? And I said, there has to be, you know, purpose. So I sought out that, and I started reading lots of books, started having lots of goal setting workshops that I was going to, started seeing a holistic coach in about 2013-14, same time that Basui said that he started going to his shrine. So we always joke about that, the way we found each other in 2017. It was interesting because it seems like we both got to the shrine and to the coach that I was going to at the same time, and then that led us to where we would eventually meet at a lecture on African spirituality. So it's a good thing that we both started our journeys to lead us to where we needed to be for us to meet. But in my personal life, I love to read a lot of books about personal accountability and things like that. I've always had a very resilient spirit. So even if I am down, I know it's temporary. I don't stay down for long. I love to reflect. I journal. I'm a writer. I love to look back on all of my experiences so that I can make some sense out of them. I have a degree in psychology, so I love to use the scientific method as I apply it to my life. And that's pretty much how I got to where I am today. I'm also the founder of a hiking company called Hikeolution. So once I discovered hiking and getting outdoors, that really was another feather in my cap to help me with some tools to really stay grounded and to keep my sanity and to just reflect on everything that I've been doing. So that's pretty much where I am now, getting folks outdoors and using that as my main self-care routine. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being
Glad
here.
to have you here. Glad to have you here. Okay, we've delved into some universal laws and actually got some definitely in-depth background on the two of you here this evening. So when we think about universal laws, what we'll do is we'll talk first about the law of divine order. We've had, as Caroline said, we've identified the various laws of divine order. So I'll pose a question to you, Kiana. So when you think of the laws of the divine order, how would you say that has manifested in your life? Like, what does that look like to you?
The law of divine order to me is beautiful because it's a constant reminder that there is a master plan. So as I stated, when I first got set on this journey, I didn't like the way things were in my life. I felt like everything was going wrong. I felt like I kept hitting brick walls, and I was just asking why. Like, what is happening? Why can't my life be what I want it to be? Something isn't right. So I really stopped and said, there has to be a better way. And I changed course in what I was doing. So when I think about the law of divine order, it reminds me that you can set everything in place and have this perfect plan. And when you have that perfect plan and that understanding that things can run smoothly, that's where you get that perfect peace. So yes. In my life, the road to joy, the road to peace began by understanding that it's not life doesn't have to be haphazard. It isn't. Even when things are chaotic, it's still the plan. So, hindsight in 2020, looking back at all the experiences and wondering why that was happening, they started to make so much sense when you looked at all the puzzles, all the pieces of the puzzle finally coming together. And you don't see the pieces when you just have one or three, but once you have 100 and you're like, oh, it's a 100-piece puzzle, and now I have the full picture. It's like, you get that aha moment. So divine order it brings a lot of comfort to my life because I know that no matter what seems to be happening, it's all going according to the plan for my life.
And switching to living your life in the divine order, was it a guided discovery or was it innate, whereby you just stopped, thought, and said, wait a minute, why? You're realizing, why am I living helter-skelter? I'm going to try something different. What was it that got you onto this divine ordered path?
It's really interesting because doing it my way is what got me into the divine order, because my way, I use air quotations for my way because everything you do is your way. You have the choices. You're the one doing it. There's no puppet. You're not a puppet with someone pulling the strings. However, what I meant is in the natural, me in the natural, not me in the spiritual. So I found that I was swimming upstream because everything was difficult. Everything was hard. And it's funny because I have a friend who likes to say, if it's hard to do, you're doing it wrong. And that's just like the most brilliant thing I heard, because clearly when something is like, it feels like there's obstacles, it's sometimes it's because that is a roadblock and you're trying to put a square peg in a round hole. Yeah. So to answer your question about was it self-guided or was it something else, it was more, I wasn't thinking through my choices. I was just acting. And then the results that came from them weren't favorable. So I had to step back, go within. And at that time, I called it surrendering to the will of God, which it still could be that. I'm not saying that I no longer think it was that.
Right.
But that's in essence what I did. I said, you know what? I'm checking out. You take over. Just tell me what to do, and I'll be obedient. So I just started, having these private conversations inside my head, and they were back and forth dialogues. And I hope that doesn't sound too crazy, but I was tapping into something outside of myself that was also within myself that was giving me the divine answers that I needed. And I didn't trust it at that point, but I was willing to. So if they said left, I went left. If they said right, I went right, up, down. So, and I was seeing if it worked. And time after time, as I was taking the information I was coming in and doing what that said, I was getting much better results, which helped build up that muscle of faith and trust in the universe.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I want to say that what you just described actually is pretty much a definition of divine order, because it's about balance. It's about bringing ourselves into a place of balance. And that's what you needed to do. And before we move on with my beautiful host, Miss Anita Crum, Basui, I want to give you an opportunity to also talk about divine order. I wanted to start with divine order because I think before we can truly get into all the rest of them, we need to understand that is a universal law that puts us into harmony with ourselves. And Basui, you mentioned something about vibrations and energy. And we need to have the right energy around us in order for ourselves to be feeling like we are in balance. Let's talk about that a little bit. I think that you might have a lot to say actually on that subject.
Yeah. So, well, one thing that I'll definitely be doing tonight is I'm going to be deferring a lot to my studies, because that's what I know, in terms of speaking spirituality, and so in our studies, we actually we have a concept of divine order, which was called Ma'at. And, Ma'at was what they call the goddess, but, we don't use gods and goddesses. And let me just a very quick segue to that, because it all gels in. But whenever you hear about the talk of gods and goddesses, we call them Necharu, right? And the actual word for the creator was Necha. And so you see Necharu is a derivation of Necha. So it's just letting you know that whenever you're talking about gods and goddess or Necharu, we're talking about universal forces that emanate from the creator, right? So it's all one entity. It's just the creator spreading its entity, throughout creation. So the creator can experience the totality of creation. And so you find these are manifested into universal laws. And so you find them everywhere, right? We're living all around universal laws. And so one of these universal laws, or one of these emanations of the creator, was a Necher, a female Necher or Nechert, called Ma'at. And Ma'at was the Necher of universal law. Ma'at was the governor of the universe. So Ma'at is the governor of the universe. She's the lawmaker. And so, a lot of times when you look on a lot of glyphs, you'll see the creator sitting on a boat. They will call it the divine bark. And in front of the creator would be Ma'at sitting in the front of the boat, leading the divine bark. So this is kind of letting us know that before the creator even thought about creating anything else in creation, order was established. Divine order was established. And so when we think about divine order, you kind of look at it as the backdrop to creation, right? It was supposed to be the backdrop to a perfect creation. It's just us as human beings, we fell so far out of alignment with that divinity, you know, in that network of universal laws that yeah, it's going to be a strong climb to get back to. But anyway, I don't want to deviate from that. Yeah, so Ma'at is the divine. I was going to go into another thing, but Ma'at is the divine order. And with that divine order comes a set of principles in itself. And so Ma'at is the ingredients that attribute to the phrase as above, so below, these principles of Ma'at. She is the consistency, or these principles are like the consistency of the universe that allows life here on earth to mirror the celestial realm. And so when you get into the principles of Ma'at, we're talking about truth, justice, harmony, order, reciprocity, and balance. You know, these are the principles of Ma'at, or divine order as we study it. And when you think about these principles, like I said, they're the consistency and the constant to the universe, because they're total mirrors of above and below. And so when we talk about truth, we're talking about something that is consistent and constant. It can't afford even a scintilla of interruption, or else chaos will ensue. And so the universe was made that way. You know, when we talk about the planets, the way that they spin on their rotations, and the sun, just the celestial bodies in itself, right? And then we look inside of our bodies, it's the same thing. The cells, they have to rotate and spin at a certain oscillation. They can't afford to stop. Our heartbeat can't afford it. Our lungs can't afford it. So these are things that are true. These are universal truths. And so we'll see the mirror of above and below right there with that principle of truth. Justice, right? Justice is basically the healing and the renewal of nature, right? Nature is always trying to heal itself. When we look at the creation of the earth, there was always disaster, and or before something new happened, disaster predilated it, right? In order for something new to happen. And we look at our bodies the same way, you know, and I'm drawing the correlations because just to kind of show that consistency, that this is an order, right? Letting you know that's an order because it's found in every aspect of life. And so I'm just using humans and celestial bodies as two polar opposite aspects. And so, yeah, so when you see the justice, that's our body also. Our body is always trying to heal itself. You know, whenever you go to any holistic health teachers, they'll always tell you that is one of the first principles, that your body will heal itself. Just let it, feed it right, water it right, give it the right nutrients, and it will work. Okay. It will work for you. That's the way
Okay, no, I want to stay there for a minute, because when we're talking about what we know and what we don't know, I'm looking at the list of the universal laws that we're going to be talking about. The law of restriction. The law of restriction says man cannot create anything higher than his level of understanding, right? You were talking about things right now that are very important to us as human beings that a lot of us don't know about. We don't know about most of the things that you just said, which means that we will never be able to create better for ourselves, be healthier, heal ourselves, or do any of those things, because we really don't have that knowledge. When I mention, it's one of the ones I wanted to talk about. It says that that work from the inside out and incorporate the power of harmonious thinking. The only solution to poverty, limitation, and desire to heal the world is to first heal yourself. But if you don't have an understanding of any of this stuff, it makes it difficult for us to move on to help others in that situation. Let's talk about that for a minute with Kiana, because I want this to be a dual conversation. So let's hit on another universal law here. And if Anita, you have anything to add to this, please do, because I know that you've done your own extensive research on it. But let's talk about the law of restriction for a minute here.
Yes. So when Basui spoke, he said that he's always going to be coming from a place of his teaching what he has learned at his shrine. So for myself, everything that I'm going to speak about is going to be from experience and from interpersonal relations. So when I look at the law of restriction, you see it very well when you think about love. There's a saying, and it's not just a saying, it's very true. People accept love in the form of how they love themselves. So when you look at abusive situations or any place where there's any mistreatment, you can see the mirror of how another person accepts that treatment because that's how they feel about themselves. When you love yourself more, then what you expect from others also increases. So that's similar to the law of restriction because that's what we're talking about. When it says that you can't create anything higher than your own level of understanding, it's because you're setting the bar for what you know. So yes, when they say work from the inside out, they're saying if you want anything on the outside to change, it has to start with the levels that you're reaching within. And of course, it seems like what you said is that, oh, well, if you don't know this stuff, how would you ever, attain the higher level? But the thing is, once you begin the work, the spirit works with you. The universe starts bringing more and more to you to allow you to grow. Anyone that wants to grow, anyone that tries and takes that first step, they are going to continue.
And Kiana, that's spot on. That's what you were talking about earlier with the divine order. You were doing it one particular way, but you kept seeing that there was this barrier and things were hard. So then you stepped back and then there was no longer that resistance. So yes, I could see your point there.
But doesn't that bring us then into the new law of compensation? Wouldn't that be similar to that?
You're responsible for what happens to you. Absolutely. Yeah. As does the law of attraction.
Yeah. All
so
of these laws are,
they all
exactly. Intermingle. It's all a marriage of all the laws. They all work in harmony because of the divine order and harmony. It makes the universe make sense. There's not going to be anything that doesn't make sense. All of the laws should definitely relate back to another one.
Right. It's the reason why I wanted to start with the law of divine order for that very reason, so we can see how all of this is linked. The work that Basui is doing, the work that you are doing, the work that I am doing, all of this, because none of us will be able to master the whole entire totality of the universe. But each of us have a work that we are doing. So let's talk about the law of vibrational attainment. Right. So the law of vibrational attainment means the entire universe operates on the same principle of vibrational energy. Do y'all know what that means? Now let's talk about it. Basui, let's talk about that. Yeah. Let's talk about that vibrational energy.
Yeah, I get my I guess stance on that. I guess it would speak to the way that we receive different forms of vibration that ultimately influence our makeup, our physical makeup. And so there's social and societal experiences, right, that we encounter that can change our vibrations, right? And when we talk about attainment, we're talking about the way that we receive vibrations. And this is one way that we can receive them from the way that we respond to situations in life. It can change our vibrations in a good or a bad way. If you're in a loving relationship, as Kiana and I are, it increases your vibration, right? It makes it stronger, Yeah. And of course, if you are constantly, you're in a toxic relationship and you're constantly experiencing bad thoughts and your attitude is bad, then yeah, I would assume that your vibration would be very low, and that would kind of overlap into the law of attraction. And then you start attracting low vibration people into your life, right? And then there's the other way that you can attain vibrations. And that is if you're willing to indulge or appreciate the concept of reincarnation, then you would understand that we attain vibrations through previous life experiences. And as a soul is born and given a physical vessel, the soul has now downloaded these negative imprints from past lives that have encountered that soul or that embodied that soul and left negative imprints on it. And so now we go through life with these negative imprints that manifest into impulses, idiosyncrasies, uncontrollable urges, and things that we can't explain. But these are vibrations that were attained to us from birth, that we haven't even tried to figure out yet how it is that they kind of invaded our bodies. But now we're going through life with them. And there are a lot of people going through life with, I guess you would say, unchecked disorders. And I guess a lot of them would come through these types of vibrations. And, we have so much knowledge on people who can do past, what do they call a retro, where they can help you. The term escapes me, but where they can help you.
Regression, past life regression.
Right, past regression. There you go. Right,
Yeah.
where they can help you with past life imprints and recollections. And so, I guess these are two ways that we can attain these vibrations. But I guess the original question that you were asking was, what does that mean, that we are all under the same vibration, or just repeat that question?
Let me. Okay, so the law of vibrational attainment means the entire universe operates on the same principle of vibrational energy. So let me finish reading it though. It says, when Einstein discovered that matter is energy, he opened the door to emergent science and metaphysics. Scientists have proven that energy cannot die. It can only transform. So I guess this is a type of transformation, pretty much what you were saying also too, which about reincarnation, because nothing dies. It is just transformed. So that's where this particular law comes in, which you pretty much answered, because you pretty much talked about that. Anita, do you have a question regarding what we just talked about to I guess?
No, I was going to add about reincarnation. And if we read further, it states it's by its very nature, energy must go forward or backward. It cannot stand still. For to do so is stagnation, resulting in transformation. So no matter what, the vibration, like, it's going to allow itself to flow. We were talking earlier about restoring and allowing water to flow through. When there's blockages, but we have to always be in motion. I think we just said a moment ago that the universal laws of the universe, it's circular. There's no end or beginning, because it's all one and they just all evolve into one another. But I think that Basui has just really wrapped that up neatly in a bow and addressed that point. But yeah, good stuff.
Okay, let's take an interlude right here. Teresa, when we're talking about all these universes, because you're my special guest host here, we're talking about how even harmony and balance and how that pertains to even our finances. So what do you have to offer when we're talking about the universal laws and how they help us? We're talking about how they're helping us spiritually, but do you have any thoughts on how they also play a hand in our financial
Yes. All hail, everyone. I'm really enjoying this conversation, mainly because I come from that same background as Basui. I hope I said your name correctly.
Yes.
And Kiana, as well as you, Caroline. And I'm bursting here, just waiting to say something, because all of these laws go with the laws of prosperity or prosperity consciousness. I come from an association. My association is called the Universal Hagar's Spiritual Association or church or school. And the founder, Father George Willie Hurley, he studied these things back in 1890, and to bring it to especially people of color to remember who we are and to understand some of the things that Basui talked about, because he studied in Tibet and Hind and India and all those type of places, so that he could bring back the truth, so that we may know who we are and where we are. So with all of these laws, especially like you said, the law of divine order, everything is in divine order. And when it comes to finance, that's what we must understand, that the world is magnetic. The world is vibrational. And we are the world. We are the universe. We are the God. We are the creators. And by understanding that, we have to understand where prosperity really comes from, and understand that our responsibility is to understand the reality. Unfortunately, it appears that people of color have forgotten not only who we are, but forgotten how wealthy we are. When you look back at the ancestors and you look back at the creators, they were always filled with wealth, but the thing was they didn't go after it. They already knew who they were. They already knew that they were wealthy. So when we're looking at prosperity and we're looking at finance, we have to understand that prosperity is basically a spiritual knowledge of transformation. True prosperity is really releasing the need, not going after money, not going after finance, understanding the spiritual laws of money as well as the natural laws of money. And that's what's missing today. We're not being taught that we can create, we can attract, we can use that law of restriction and become the law of restriction, where it says here, incorporate the power of harmonious thinking, understanding that if we're thinking in a conscious level and forgetting about the consciousness, subconscious mind, the subconscious mind, once we know what we want, most don't know, and I'm also in the field of finance. I've been working in this field for about 30 years, and most financial planners are only dealing with the natural laws of money. I help families and people that I meet to understand the spiritual laws of money. What do you want? The reason why most don't understand that we're already prosperous because of their upbringing. What happened in the past, of how the vibrational attainment of what their mothers were saying, the matter of energy that will turn out the lights. What do you think? Money grows on trees? And so we've been indoctrinated with with a mindset of lack. But understanding that we attract all that we want when we know that prosperity, rather that our subconscious mind programs sometimes inferiority. Sometimes it programs lack. So once we understand that ye are gods, we are financial. Once we align with I'm trying to get all this down because I could talk about this for a week. So all these thoughts are coming. So once we know if we align with the light, and most of all, knowing the age that we're in, one of the things Father Hurley was preparing us for this Aquarian age, understanding that our thoughts travel around the world in a fraction. I mean, we're talking on this box. We're seeing each other through this law of vibration. And these are the things that he was preparing us for, to understand that now, not only are we in the Aquarian age, this is also the fifth dimension of light. In this fifth dimension, we're not the same. We don't walk the same. If you notice, the sunset is not the same. The sunrise is not the same. So anything that we want, like somebody said something about teachers, like Bashui and Kiana, we're teachers. So what we've got to do is understand that sincere teachers raises others up. But first we raise ourselves up by knowing the truth. The truth is what is setting us free to be able to share with others. So we got to put on our oxygen mask on first. So when we get that calling, like someone said, well, how the people, they don't know the things, like what Bashui was sharing with you is what they're asking all of us, light workers, crystal walkers, whatever you want to call us, to come out from wherever you are, to be able to help uplift fallen humanity in all areas, in relationship, in finance, especially finance, because that's where we forgot. that we have gold and silver. We are even made of gold and silver. It's in our pineal gland. The crystals are already also in our blood. Don't get me started.
No, but you know what?
But over there preaching.
That's right.
Yes,
And what you're saying is powerful. Which brings us to our next law that we're going to discuss.
Can I just have a follow up to her conversation?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was
Caroline, that was pretty awesome. Yeah. You sparked the firestorm here. Caroline, you mentioned earlier after Basui spoke about how do we educate others. So Teresa talked about, we already know this, and but there's been a process of indoctrination. It's not just our parents or our grandparents, it's our great-great-grandparents, great-great-great-grandparents, and just the whole way that we African Americans have been put here and been colonized, been trained to believe a certain way. And so that just gets passed down. But Sui said it well when he stated that we have forgotten from where we've come from, and Teresa brought it up too, the riches that we possessed initially. So there's this huge part of education that has to get out so that we are aware. One of the things when you talk about the law of compensation and the riches that we possess, we're, just on the principle of the fact that we are God's children. Ask, we shall receive, and it will be given unto you. That alone. But there's just so much in the world that is has it stacked against all humanity to focus to one beat drum, and that's this. Do what everybody else is doing, drive and have the same car everybody else have, the same clothes, the pocketbook, go send your kids to these colleges, they'll get an education, but in the meantime, you got to work 4 jobs. And that's not what it's all about. It's spend time inside so that you'll know yourself to come and then reflect and be in the world and act that out. And from there, knowing thyself, all of these things, the universal laws will be made known to you. And so that's the task at hand. How are we going to now get everyone turn the tables, turn the tide, get a different drum beat that everybody's following is going to unveil to be the truths of the laws of the universe, to live this richness in life, because that's the whole plan. That's the whole plan.
Can I just say real quick?
Yes. No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
My Jedna, y'all touched on, and Kiana can probably attest to it. My Jednas, I was laughing because as I'm hearing you, Teresa and Anita, you just touched on something too. That my Jedna says, he says the exact stuff verbatim, especially when he talks about the oxygen mask, But you have to put yours on first. Before you can worry about saving, you have to save yourself first. But what I just wanted to say is what you two ladies just described was what reparations looks like, because every once in a while that word comes up, reparations. And, we think it's just something tangible. There's something monetary, where all Black folk gonna be proud once we get it. But if you don't transform yourself first, if we don't transform ourselves, that reparations money or whatever they give us is going right back to whoever gave it to us. And it's almost like, why not give it to us? All you're going to do is just get a big return on it in the state that we're in right now, but what y'all were just touching upon when in terms of reparations, educationally, like the educational part of reparations, is exactly what y'all were saying. I mean, we need so badly to have a rites of passage as opposed to an indoctrination, in the way that we've always been taught, and sometimes tradition is the best indoctrinator, following what your grandparents and their parents did just because it was tradition. Sometimes that doesn't work in the day where we're trying to apply it. So we have to find newer ways. It might have been great for them, but right now we have to find other ways, to break out of this chain or this tight hold that has us still in bondage mentally. And I want to say that y'all just touched on those man. That was beautiful. It was beautiful. That's exactly what educational reparations looks like.
All of you did, and what each of you said was absolutely fantastic. And we have two more laws that I want to talk about. And Basui, you did a great segue into both of them. And one of them is the law of belief, right? Because it says you can have anything you want if you can give up the belief that you can't have it. As long as it doesn't conflict in harmony with someone else, it would be best to achieve the education necessary to attain what you want. Belief is very, very important. I think there's power in just belief, because whatever you believe becomes your truth. So, Basu, you were talking about educating and breaking away from ritual, which our last universal law that we're going to discuss before we sign off is the law of ritual, right? But it is difficult for us to get people to believe what is true, because they have already accepted and believed what is not true. You understand what I'm saying? So where we're having most of our issues trying to get to the level of what Teresa is talking about, to the level of what you're talking about, Basu, even to the level of what Kiana and Anita's talking about, is that we have to first break away some of those untruths. I would tell individuals that the worst words I hear, and Kiana and Anita can repeat it for me before I even say it.
That's the way it's historically been done.
Yeah. Oh my God. I can't. I can't with those very words. This is the way it's historically been done. And the way it's historically been done has been killing us. Okay?
Well, I just want to say that what we really have to understand is that the media machine, and the folks that want to keep us asleep, they are working full-time, overtime, vacation, no time, no breaks. Like, it's a full-time job for them to make sure that we're not conscious, to make sure that we're asleep, to make sure that we don't know, to make sure we never return to what we know inside. So they flood us with so much. So that's the easy part for them to do. And they have such a head start over us for that. Once you start talking this conscious stuff, even though it resonates with folks, it's just not the popular story. It's not. If they turn the corner, they're going to get hit with 10 times more things that are the opposite of what you just tried to tell them. And old habits die very hard. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, okay, so then the pandemic hits. We were home for a year and a half, the majority of people. So was that the reset button?
It sure was, because it resulted in the Great Resignation.
The Great Resignation.
They're scrambling because
people spending time with their families.
I don't want this rat race. I'm checking out.
Exactly.
There's even a newsletter that I follow called Rat Race Rebellion. So that was the wake up. We got a chance to not. We were in our house doing our own thing, staying together, and we weren't able to see the media machine. Hopefully you turned off your television, but we weren't able to get that
to be in the rat race with it.
Stuff. It's the subconscious stuff. It's like that movie They Live. How everything you see has a hidden message behind it. So we missed out on so much of that messaging because we weren't out in the world getting it. We weren't getting the residual bus ads. We weren't getting the billboards. We weren't getting the radio in the car. It was we did tune off a lot, and that's how we were able to get a aha moment. Like, I want to do something different. We got a lot of courage, And that was bad.
So then, okay.
That's a good point.
It's the Aquarian age. So is this whole pandemic by design? It's like
Absolutely.
the wheels were turning fast. The wheels were turning fast, but then it slowed down. Maybe it reversed. And now it's gearing back, but in a really slow motion. And we're marching the other way so that the universal laws can be taught, understood. We're waking up so that we can go out and communicate
the awakening definitely started before the pandemic. We were already getting there, especially with the invention of the internet and connecting folks and having that information available. Yeah. That was, the foundation to get to this place. So everything was the building blocks to where we need to be.
To where we need to be.
Started with the law of divine order and what we talked about with the plan. There are no mistakes. There are no accidents. This isn't something that messed up like, oops, if this had not happened. No, this was supposed to happen. So, of course, everything is happening as it should to get us where we need to be as a whole. Go back to the vibrational. As Teresa mentioned, the word light workers and things like that. All the conscious people that are here on the planet doing their self-work, getting their knowledge of self, raising their personal vibration, it's a collective work, because once you do that, you are now raising the vibration of the entire planet. So that's why it's important that we all get that self-work and work on ourselves, because you got 10 people doing that, now it's 10 times greater the light. So that's why it's so important, because it's not just going to benefit me to work on myself. Bearing light into the world is now going to outshine all the negativity that the rest of the world is trying to, get us in. They're trying to get us in World War III right now, as you all know. So we need light workers to just come together and send that positive vibration to overdo it, to overturn it, to heal this planet. That's what it's going to take.
Yes, and we can't help but do it, because our bodies, our DNA is changing. Our molecular structure, our cellular structure, we are changing, and the ancestors was waiting for this time. The ancestors are popping up. I've never heard so many young children knowing about the ancestors, knowing about some of the things that Basui talks about. If they come here, if these children come here, they come here knowing. So this reset had to happen, and more of us are waking up. We have to let our light shine that others may see our good works. Sometimes we could just walk in a room. I did that last week, and people want to know, what is it that you know? Sometimes we don't even have to be on a platform because of this time. Energy. The energy and the vibration. They're awake. Now. People are also beginning to believe more because it's indoctrinated in their self, in their bodies. They're beginning to know the truth. They're beginning to look. They're not looking at these false doctrines, these things to look outside of us. They remember what Yeshua kept telling us. We are God. And it's not blasphemy to say it, but most people of color do not believe that.
One of the things I want to add to this, that everything that you're saying right now is part of the divine order, because all of us working together, and it has to happen because it's part of the divine order. As we begin to awaken, as we begin to all begin to see the truth, it will be more overpowering than what is happening right now. See, everybody right now see all the evil and everything that's happening in the world right now, right? The world seems like, oh my God, look, everybody's just acting crazy. But when, like Kiana said, once everyone and Teresa, you mentioned it too, some of us have this in us. The whole entire world is not under the authority of the world. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say is that for a long time it's been hidden. And like you said, Yeshua said, you don't light a candle and then hide it under a blanket. So what's happening is some of us light bearers and some of us who have already been doing this work in secret are now doing this work in the day.
Light.
You understand what I'm saying? And when you read down here where it says, under the law of divine order, if enough souls focus their energy upon peace, we will have peace. Okay, so we need this is a cry that we're gonna put out here on these airwaves. We need all of the light workers. We need everybody who believes. We need everybody who is working toward the good of humanity to stop hiding now. This is your time now. We've crossed over to a new age. This is now our time, and we need to come forth, right? Which brings us to the last law, the law of ritual. Because the law of ritual states that any act performed and repeated with specific intent becomes a rite. It can be enhanced by using the power of the mind to control reality. It is time for us to get into a ritual of doing good and bringing light into the universe. Because once all of us begin to do that, we will see the change. It has to change. You understand?
Oh,
It
And
has.
for all the listeners, permit your guides to assist.
Exactly.
That's the message. Permit your guides to assist.
Yes.
And realize that our spiritual loved ones that have passed are here to help us. I have been doing this work for over 30 years. I'm also a spiritual reader. As Bashua said, that is very powerful.
Right.
I'm a spiritual reader, and that's what we did back in the day, to understand who we are. What does the stars say? What does the moon say? And understanding the sun, Sol Aurum. Oh my God, there's so much that we really, I think that we're coming into the realization that there's more.
Yeah.
And that's what we are, that's our calling to go out and do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I know all of us on this particular call will do our parts because I know each and every one of you personally. So I know that you are working for the good of humanity. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank all of you for being my guests today on this episode. This is a fabulous episode, which we really hope will be able to raise lots of vibration. I want you to continue doing what you're doing. Continue to do good. Do good even when it don't feel good to do good. Keep doing good because
That's important.
Yes.
That's important.
So, Basui, any parting words? What do you want to say to the listening community out there before we sign off?
Yeah, I just want to, and Kiana touched upon it, especially with the pandemic, and the importance of gatherings like this and just gatherings with like-minded people, because just as we were talking about how we can get together and create a collective energy, but the reason why we need to do that is because we need to combat what it's called the collective ego, that's actually pervading right now. And it's this, what it is this overly sexualized energy. It's a what they call a rape culture that has been created. And it's all emanated from individual toxic thinking, but together, and that goes with the last law, because this toxic thinking is so repeated, it becomes ritualized, and that's what made this collective ego so strong. When with the TV, it's programmed, things are on at the same time every day. It's the same toxicity you're watching, same messages you're getting. In the music, the messages are the same now. So everything is a ritual. It's all a rite that's being acted upon us. And that rite is being collected into this ball of energy that has just brought us to a point now where I think we were due for a pandemic. We were due for a cleansing. And we have to look at it as a cleansing that it is. And Kiana touched upon it. It is a cleansing that kept everybody in the house. It made everybody reflect and made the air clean. The animals were coming out in 2020. They were happy. Nature was happy,
Yeah.
Opened up our pineal gland.
Yeah, exactly. There was even pollution that was eliminated. And places like Los Angeles and China had the cleanest air quality in decades.
It was, I'm telling you.
And enough time to get those who were sleeping giants to wake up. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. So I'm, the message I just want to drive home is we need more gatherings like this of like-minded people to get together, even though, 2020 made it hard, we couldn't get together in a physical space. But if we can do more Zooms, if we can just, do more modems where we can galvanize our intellect and our consciousness to combat this toxicity that's going on, then, I know I'm all for it. I'm all for it. And I appreciate it. I'll say it once again, definitely. Thank you for having me on, and allowing me to build with more like-minded energies. Thank you very much. Do I?
Kiana, parting words from you, Kiana.
I just want to reiterate, as above, so below, as within, so without. So it's so imperative that we take the time to heal ourselves so that we can go out and do the work, because if we still have our hangups, then we can't really affect as much change. So it's so important that we sit with our shortcomings and figure out what that level is that we need to get to so that we can constantly work towards it. And just knowing that it's mind over matter. The cool thing about our brain is that it does not know the difference between fact or fiction. That's why propaganda works so well, because whatever you're telling it, your mind is going to believe it. So why not feed it with your hopes, your dreams, and all the positivity and going in that direction, because it's going to believe it anyhow. So just no more negativity. Just go in believing, because what do you have to lose? If you're already believing negative, you're already doomed and headed in the wrong direction. So why not turn it around and try something else? You can only benefit, or you can stay exactly where you are. It'll be no harm, no foul. But I'm telling you, you switch that mind and start going in a direction that leads you to your highest self, you won't be disappointed.
That's right.
Teresa, last words from you.
Watch what we're thinking. Be careful what goes in our mind, our subconscious mind, because it's lodged into the subconscious mind. There is a law of neutralization. Balance things. Understand that the hermetic law of polarity, there's good and there's bad. There's up and there's down. We've got to balance it. Balance our thoughts, remembering who we are. Worry and doubt and fear blocks our progress. Worry, doubt, and fear is an expression of who we think we are. Worry, doubt, and fear is not part of the Creator's program. Know thyself and know that thee are free. Free to act, free to think, free to have whatever we want. And try the Spirit by the Spirit. I wanted a trampoline, and I wanted a massager, as well as little compartments to put in my bathroom. I just thought about what I wanted, and I went to Aldi's of all places. All three of them was together. All three. Trampoline, massager, and the compartment. What's that doing in Aldi's? Give it to the subconscious. The subconscious does the work for us. No.
Thank you. Anita, last words from you, my dear.
Sure. Well, I just want to capitalize on what Kiana said, and mine is the bigger the front, the bigger the back. So everything is mirrored. All that you need and want to know is within. You don't have to search outside of you, but just meditating quietly. 5 minutes is fruitful. 30 minutes is even better. And you'll discover that everything that you need, you already have. You're equipped with it all. So dream and dream big.
Well, I would like to thank all of my guests today. If you did not have a fabulous time today, then you were not really paying attention to this conversation. This conversation was packed full of so many goodies that there ain't nobody within the listening voice can say that I don't know how to do my part. So, this is Dr. Caroline Bethea-Jones signing off. We'll be back next month, where our topic of discussion will be faith, desire, and vision. And I hope to see you all again. Have a good evening.